First of all, I have to always point this out. They still do this on late night comedy shows. I don't know if you know Brian Williams. He's about 7 feet tall. He's a very tall man. Let me ask. How tall is Brian Williams? So he's 6 feet tall. That's pretty tall. I'm sure he's taller than Seth Meyers. But do you see what they do? Mm-hmm. They have the host chair up higher so he looks at least 3 inches tall. Look at that. Mm-hmm. Make a straight line across. Why do they do this? Why do you have to, like you're a judge in court, you have to sit higher than everybody? Why did they do this? They still do this so that he's taller than him. Isn't that wild? What you're supposed to do is make everybody the same height. So what he should do is lower his chair a little.
Yeah.
Like when I would do television shows with round tables, you try to make everybody's chair the same height. You put cushions underneath, or you raise it, or you lower it. You don't want one person this side, one person left. You don't want it to look like a Kamala Harris interview on CNN. Yeah. Right? Kamala Harris with Tim Walz. Remember that? That was very funny. But anyway, but watch this. So here is Brian Williams and Seth Meyers, the comedian. I put it in quotes because he's not really a comedian. He's a mouthpiece of the establishment. He doesn't really do comedy. I can't believe this is considered a comedy show, but he was on Saturday Night Live. But here we go. Listen to what he says. He is going to school him about what's wrong with the Democrats. This guy, Mr. Out of Touch himself, even he's more in touch than the late night talk show host. Listen to what Seth Meyers says.
It did feel like the Democratic Party under Joe Biden did a lot of things for working class voters.
Now, did it sound to you like he said... It did seem like Joe Biden did a lot for working class voters. It did seem like, or it didn't?
I heard didn't.
Let me listen.
It did feel like the Democratic Party.
It did feel like.
It did. Okay,
he said it did feel like. Yeah, the first time I heard it too, I thought he said he did. No, he said it did feel. It felt like. It felt like. How would you know what it feels like? You're a fucking millionaire. How would you know what it feels like to a regular working person? Does it feel? Hey, does it feel? It feels to me like they're helping working people. What kind of a thing is that to say? It felt like. Well, I don't know. You host a nightly show that's supposed to be making fun of the news. Did you read the news? Did you see that Joe Biden squashed a railroad strike, which would have set the template for the entire country? Did you see that? How they broke a railroad strike and all they wanted was sick pay? You didn't see that? No, of course you didn't. So,
jokes.
Oh, there are jokes.
There are jokes.
Get out of here.
They're somewhere. Shoot, where'd they go?
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. So let's watch it. I'll try to play it without stopping.
It did feel like the Democratic Party under Joe Biden did a lot of things for working class voters. Certainly inflation was a giant issue. Messaging as well. Do you feel like they just failed to message what they had done for?
Yeah, it wasn't that the Democrats didn't do anything. They did. It felt like they did things. They just, son of a gun, they had $1 billion to spend and they just didn't know how to message. It's not that they're horrible. It's not that the Democratic Party has turned their back on workers for 30 years now. It's not that they've crushed unions and not pushed a minimum wage increase or done anything for anybody. It's not that. It's just that they didn't get their message out. Oh, they're bad at messaging. Not that they're bad people. Not that they're horrible and don't serve actual workers. It's that they don't know how to message all the good things they're doing. That's literally what he's saying. This is the same kind of intellectual banter you'll get at The View. That's Seth Meyers. Seth Meyers. The great Seth Meyers.
It did feel like the Democratic Party under Joe Biden did a lot of things for working class voters. Certainly inflation was a giant issue. Messaging as well. Do you feel like they just failed to message what they had done for and had planned for the economy?
Even Brian Williams can't take this bullshit. Watch this. Watch this.
It's tough love time for the Democratic Party. I think it needs to be stripped down and rebuilt. I think that means a change in leadership. I want to know who thought it was a good idea that Joe Biden stand for another 4 years at 80 years of age and 37% popularity. So then that saddled the party with a British-like short campaign season for them. I think it's insulting when members of the working class, which the Democratic Party has lost entirely in our lifetimes.
Bam! He's just punching Seth Meyers in his fucking vagina as hard as he can. That's insulting. They were insulting to workers who have completely lost the workers for a generation. And there's Seth Meyers like, oh, I didn't know we were allowed to tell the truth. Isn't he going to get in trouble for that? No, he doesn't have a job anymore. That's why he can tell the truth. Here we go.
To insist the economy's doing great. A 12-pack of Bounty is $40. Rich folks don't feel that. Poor folks already switched to Sparkle during the COVID, during the lockdown. And I think telling them that the NASDAQ is gangbusters is further insulting. It's insulting. I think the biggest unforced error of the Biden administration by far was the border. To tell people it's not a problem is insulting. For the working class to see incoming migrants getting welcome bags, debit cards, and motel rooms is probably insulting as well. So there's a lot of work to do. You know, it was when they handed out camo hats that said Harris Walls, and the Democrats they were kind of charmed by that. Their party has gone quinoa, and the rest of America's eating at Cracker Barrel. And so it was kind of an ironic use of something millions of Americans put on their heads to start their day every day.
This is Brian Williams, the guy who cheered on the bombing of Syria, saying we are guided by the beauty of our weapons. Even that guy has to say, hey, you know what, Seth? The Democrats are a complete fucking joke. They serve Wall Street and the military-industrial complex and their corporate donors. They don't serve workers. They've turned their back on them. It's insulting for them to say the economy's doing good. It's insulting for them to quote the NASDAQ and Wall Street, the Dow Jones, as if that means anything to regular people. And this is from one guy who's been a millionaire for 35 years to another guy who's been a millionaire for 35 years. Even he has to say it because he's currently not employed. Seth Meyers, still employed by the machine that lies us into every war. And that's why his comedy is nobody ever quotes it. Because he just does comedy at the behest of the machine. You remember when Woody Harrelson went on Saturday Night Live and he told the truth about COVID? About how the drug cartels got together and forced you to take a product or you couldn't leave there. Remember that? How that got passed around for weeks and weeks on social media? What a splash that made. Did that ever happen to a video of Seth Meyers? No, because he's always lying to you. He just lied. He just lied in his question to Brian Williams. I feel like the Democrats did a lot for workers. They did this bad messaging, right? That's what you know who says that? That's what the Democratic Party says, Seth. You don't have a critical word to say about it? You don't have anything funny or insightful? He does. Guess who does? The guy who lied about the news for 30 years. He actually has something to say, not the comedian. And that's why Seth Meyers is not a comedian. Here's what I said. Brian Williams schools comedian Seth Meyers on how utterly stupid and colossally out of touch the Democrats have become. This is what every Democrat should have been saying. When I was at the Democratic convention in Chicago, I was stunned that absolutely nobody, none of the delegates, none of the speakers, nobody was saying anything like that. They were all brainwashed, brain-dead Stepford delegates repeating party-approved talking points instead of engaging in serious discussions and debates about the economic problems that are facing American workers. The Democrats have become pro-war, pro-Wall Street, Orwellian cult running on a groupthink narrative enforcement. Even Brian Williams can see it. But the comedian Seth Meyers, clueless. Which is why no one will ever remember him. No one ever quotes him. No one ever passes around a video of his, ever. Because he is a willing tool of the establishment. And he's comfortable. I would have been that. Had somebody handed me the jobs he's been handed at the age he was I'd be the same way probably. I'd probably be just as comfortably numb, stupid, out of touch. I'd like to think I wouldn't, but there's a good chance I'd be just as dumb as him on purpose, because that's what that is. Come see us doing live